Good evening and welcome to the studio this evening. It always seems that when I join the stream, when I make the stream live, I've always got a cup of coffee or a cup of tea in my hand. Important to keep drinking, keep hydrated. Well, I said last night I got lots of projects to finish. This is one of them. So I'm going to do some more of this. I'm half wondering whether to sit down, but I'm not going to bother sitting down for the minute. So we will peel this back. We're doing black. Lots and lots of black. There's as much white to do as black. But we're doing black at the moment, so just bring the desk up a bit more, make it a bit easier. And rather than sitting down, I can stand the desk up. So, how is everybody this evening? And hope you've all had a good day. It's been quite a busy day for me. Today is the day in which the financial database that I look after publishes its data internally, and so it's always a busy time of the month. But it's gone relatively smoothly today, which is fantastic, as there's quite a few other activities that were going on in the background. So not only was it a normally busy day, it was an extra busy day because of extra things that were going on. But I'm here. And we're making magic. In some ways it kind of is magic, isn't it? The way that grey stuff just suddenly becomes black like that and stands out. And I think they're really nice. Now I don't know what the sound is going to be like. Hopefully it's not too bad. Someone did say last night that the music was overpowering. And they couldn't hear my voice. I did try listening to the recordings back. In fact, I did play about with it a little bit, and to some extent I will admit to not quite realising until last night just how the sound mixing with OBS works. The sound mixing is mixing the sources into the output. It's not adjusting the volume of the input so that it goes in. That's kind of sounds complicated. You can adjust the volume. You could adjust the volume going into the mixing desk so that when you get the output, you achieve whatever level you want. The other way is to not adjust the sound going in, but to adjust the amount of sound that you mix into the output, which is kind of how mixing desks work when I thought about it, but it wasn't kind of how I was thinking about it before. So when I was doing things like turning down the microphone, I was expecting to turn down the level going into the input for the mix, not how much of it was being mixed. Now, technically it doesn't make a great deal of difference, it sort of works out the same in the end, but it just means that things are happening in different places. So OBS gets a bit complicated with sound in a way. So I did turn the music down, and I turned in comparison to the microphone, and then boosted them both a bit. But I can't actually amplify the output. This microphone is really quiet, and that's part of the problem with it. It's a standard professional microphone, Now, unless it's the A to D converter, I mean, I can turn it up, but the problem I've got to watch is that I don't actually start clipping. And the clipping, you notice it. I won't actually notice it unless I listen back to the stream. But if you will notice clipping is if it sounds distorted, or there's like cracks and popples, cracks and pops. Especially if I start talking loudly. I can notice it because the converter that sits in front of me over there does have a clipping indicator. So if it really clips, it flashes at me, and I get to know. But it actually sort of is doing that before I'm getting clipping, before that occurs. So it's compatibility of everything. To some extent, I would kind of prefer to mix everything externally and then feed it into OBS, but I can't do that. A, I don't have the software, or B, I don't have the hardware to do that, and then I lose control over certain aspects of the audio streams that OBS gives me, like being able to turn on and off sources. Or even using Stream Deck to turn on and off sources, like the microphone, for example, so I can mute the microphone. And can't do that if I mix externally. So there's a real trade-off. And in theory, this analog to digital converter that I'm using is a reasonably good one. There are better, and there are professional ones which are better, but this one should be okay. But I did notice, sort of in comparison to quite a few other streamers last night when I was checking, my audio is significantly quieter than theirs. So what I might try and do at some point is boost the levels, so that I don't have to change volume, my speaker volume, when I listen to their broadcast as opposed to listening to mine. But as I mentioned last night, audio setup for OBS takes quite a bit of doing, and I can't guarantee that if I record it and try and compare a recording on my machine to what Twitch is actually broadcasting, or a Twitch recording of my own stream, that they're actually the same. And that makes it also a bit difficult, because I kind of have to only do it with a live stream. And I'd almost need to listen to myself, but then isolate I suppose I'd have to do it is I would have to isolate the music, basically turn it off, and then route the speakers through to headphones, and then do a test broadcast, speaking into the microphone at about this sort of distance, and listening to the feedback, which will of course be about 15 seconds delayed, which is going to be really interesting. Trying to work out how to, trying to talk to yourself while you're doing that and listening to feedback that delayed. Mind you, it's a little bit easier than listening to feedback which is in sort of a few hundred milliseconds. That takes a lot of practice, and then sort of judge it that way perhaps. But what I've got to do then is sort of put electronic input boosters on the amplifiers, basically on the input to OBS. And this microphone is already boosting it something like 40 times going into OBS. So in some ways I'm kind of surprised it's not overdriving OBS, but there again, having said which, I don't know actually how the analog to digital conversion goes over USB. I don't think it's as simple as a straight conversion. I think it kind of goes something along the lines of, here's the waveform and here's how loud it is. There's two separate values, which means that to amplify it, you just sort of say, you don't touch the waveform, you just say it's a bit louder. I don't know. I shall have to play, but if I'm playing with audio in OBS, I am not uploading videos. If I'm not uploading, and vice versa. So there's kind of only so much I can do, or uploading photographs to Etsy. That is something I must remember to do. I can now make stainless steel bracelets, or stainless steel anything actually. Anything. In terms of the jewellery that I do, I can make it now in stainless steel as opposed to anodised aluminium or bright aluminium, or even things like niobium or the other one, which is not carbon fibre, titanium. And but I kind of need to get it up there and on there. But if anybody is interested in having chainmail type bracelets and necklaces and things like that in stainless steel, and it's not there on Etsy, you are welcome either to start a conversation on Etsy and ask, or even just send me a message here on Twitch, as I do have stainless steel. Reasonably good if you are intolerant to nickel, but stainless steel does contain nickel, so it would be something you would have to be careful of if you are allergic to certain metals. But having mentioned Etsy, of course, that is everything that's on everything, just about. No, I will probably say everything at the moment, but what's on Etsy is things that have been made on stream. So if you've watched a past stream and seen something made there in terms of jewellery, it is available on Etsy. Zaragonart.etsy.com. So feel free to take a look. It's not that far till Christmas, so good Christmas presents. Of course, I'd say that because I'm selling them, but I actually do think they're good Christmas presents. It's not so much marketing hype about it that I would make that up. And ultimately, anything, the proceeds of selling stuff on Etsy not only goes towards supporting selling stuff on Etsy, buying more materials to sell stuff there. It also means that I've got more materials to do things here on Twitch. So to make new bracelets, new weaves, play about with things on stream, all sort of ring shaped stuff. So it is a way of, if it's of interest to you, it is a way of supporting the channel. Incidentally, so is the two buttons at the top of the screen, top right of the screen, the follow button. If you would like to just follow the channel, come back, see new things, and of course the subscribe button is available there as well, of which the proceeds will go towards the stream. And of course, this month, of course, it's 50% off, unless of course you're using Twitch Prime. Then it's nothing off, unfortunately. You don't get two for the price of one, not as far as I understand. But it does mean that the broadcaster still gets their bit of the Twitch Prime membership. So the subscription is what I was looking for, is the word. So if you'd like to consider that would be absolutely fantastic. And as I am talking about websites and things like that, I'll tell you about some of the others that are down there. I've got a Facebook. Zaragan Art's got a Facebook, and I think there's some interesting stuff on there. And there's Twitter account, of course. We're at Zaragan Art on Twitter, or twitter.com/ZaraganArt. We'll find us there. Generally speaking, the tweets are to do with the stream or art associated with the stream, so feel free to follow us there. Notifications go out as well when we're going to stream, and notifications when I am able to do so also go out if I'm not able to stream, so you've got an alternative way of keeping up on the what's happening on the channel there as well. Now YouTube, I've got a complete archive. Well, no, I haven't. I've got an almost complete archive of all the Twitch broadcasts since I started. Now you may not know, or you may know, that Twitch only keeps them for a couple of weeks, a video, when it's being broadcast. Now it keeps it a little bit longer if there's highlights on there associated with it, but essentially after 2 weeks it throws away the video. But I am also recording it here locally, so I've got my own recording, and I've got well over 700 hours of Twitch recording. That's it. I have broadcast more than 700 hours of programming on Twitch. Now that's bigger than some commercial companies do when this sort of a year or so into broadcasting. But yeah, quite a lot when I realise. Now, as you might imagine, an hour's worth of video is about 1 gigabyte of data, and that means that's what, 700 gigabytes, a bit more, but around 700 gigabytes, 3/4 of a terabyte of video. And what I'm doing is uploading that onto YouTube, not all in one go. Anybody, virtually no matter what size of internet they've got, would have a bit of a trouble transferring 3/4 of a terabyte. I know people like YouTube and 3/4 of a terabyte of bandwidth. Nah, it's small change to them. But not with my upload. I only do have a 10 meg upload, but that's still lots and lots of hours. So they are being gradually uploaded, and will be, or are, the ones that are uploaded are available, but they will become available to watch. And putting them all into series is that a word? As I upload them. So if you wanted to look at the first Pussycat, for example, which is what was the first one? Felix. So the biography of Felix the Pussycat, that's on there as the cat. I don't particularly feel like putting the names up there. And the second cat is Junior, and then there's the Class 66 locomotive. So they're all available there, and also some big playlists which are like all the carving so far and things like that. So hopefully make things a bit easy to find if you are interested in seeing some of the older broadcasts. And boy, has the style changed. Actually, so's the volume. Back then I used to use a headset and a microphone associated with the headset. I hate wearing headsets though. Makes my ears too hot and they get really uncomfortable. And if I switch to using in-ear earphones, which is fine, I don't mind that, but then I've got no microphone because it was on the headset. which is partly why I went to this one. That I'm looking at it. You can't see it, but I'm looking at it. And this is a professional studio microphone. Aimed at doing voiceovers and things. It's not a log microphone, actually. It's a Rode what was it? M5, I think? No, M3, that's it. I couldn't afford the M5. So Rode M3, which is meant for studio and voiceover work. So ideally suited for this sort of thing. And I actually prefer this style, which is an in-shot microphone, as opposed to the side shots, which a lot of people use. It just keeps the microphone more out of my view when I'm working than a side shot would do, which is one that stands up and you're talking to the side of it. And in theory, being a studio, as in a desk type microphone, the pickup should be a bit better as well. Although I am thinking, especially for later on this year, about saving up and getting what's called a lavalier microphone, but it's a tight clip microphone as they call it, and a radio pack, so that I can. I'm not tethered now, but as I move away from the microphone, the levels change, which means it gets harder for you to hear sometimes. Especially if I'm turned to one side like I am doing now. So I'm not talking into the microphone, I'm talking across it. That alters the levels as well, which can make it difficult for you to hear. So I was thinking about a tight clip microphone, but I don't like the trailing wire then, because it's a trailing wire, you can trip over it, you can pull it out. I mean, it's nice, you can, and I would put sort of fast release clips on it so that I don't fall over or actually sort of hurt myself, and I can always unclip it if I want to go get something. But that's the other problem with microphones on cords. You either have to take them off or split them in some way, and they're just a bit sort of awkward, whereas the radio mics, when you go into a wide microphone, a radio mic is quite a nice thing, because you can then wander about just as easily with exactly the same voice levels, no matter where you are in the room. Although they do tend to pick up more studio noise than things like this desk mic, which is slightly directional. The other thing I didn't, and one of the reasons why I didn't get one in the first place, is they do tend to sort of eat batteries though, so I understand. But yeah, you can get rechargeable batteries. They tend not to like. A lot of them apparently don't like rechargeable batteries, mainly because the voltage is slightly lower. So they tend to think the battery is almost flat, and therefore, handle it appropriately, shall we say, whatever it is appropriate to the system. And of course, when they're in commercial use, you're in a studio or you're on a stage, they don't care about batteries. It's a couple of quid for a couple of batteries, and if they go through a pair of batteries a night, they're not bothered. They're getting hundreds or thousands of pounds from whatever it is that's going on, so a few batteries doesn't really matter to them. And but when you're broadcasting like this, a set of batteries every night would be quite a lot of money. Adds up. Even if you go out and sort of buy these cheap multi-packs that sort of, buy 1,000 batteries at £10 or something. They add up when you're using a pair a night. But we'd have to see rechargeables. I mean, ultimately, I can always play the game of an external battery pack with a lithium-ion battery pack or lithium polymer battery pack, and then just use a voltage converter on the output to give whatever voltage would represent two batteries, two lithium two alkaline cells. I just didn't want to sort of be fiddling with that when I first started broadcasting. Kind of almost wish I had, because they were about the same sort of price. A decent microphone is not cheap. And cheap, it's one of those things that a decent microphone is not cheap and a cheap microphone isn't decent. That's not necessarily true, but it does have a reasonable quality, and that you do tend to, with microphones, you do tend to get what you pay for. It is to some extent the same with a lot of audio equipment used for recording. I put a qualifier in there you may or may not have noticed. Right. Well, lots of black dots. The nose is growing. Time for some tea. One advantage of the desk that I'm at, which I'm standing at, by the way. That may not be obvious from that shot, and of course you can't tell with the camera looking at the work. But I am actually stood up at the desk. This is a standing desk. It's one of these that goes up and down, which is absolutely fantastic for this sort of thing. Because what it actually means is I don't lean over quite so much. I do tend to stand more upright because I can stand a lot closer to the desk than I can sit at a desk. So I'm not leaning forward to as much to work on things, which then has, by bringing the desk up, also has the benefit of I'm not tipping my head down quite so much either, which stops my neck aching quite so much. Because when you're looking down for a couple of hours, your neck does tend to let you know that it's not as happy as it was. Leazar, good evening. Welcome to the studio this evening, and how are you today? I've just seen you there. I don't know how long you've been. It was since you said hello in your unique fashion. You know, when I have a tendency when I ask a question like that to shut up to wait for people to answer, but it's something like 15 to 30 seconds before you even hear it, so I probably shouldn't do that. But even after all this time, I still forget. Hi there. And I know places like Mixer have got the FTL, but I'm not sure I've got the bandwidth for that, so even if it was available on Twitch. And without the transcoding as well, that would be potentially a problem for people. You've never seen this before? Have you not seen? I haven't got the other two here. I've done two others of these. This is what I call a craft. This isn't art, because this is just doing something that somebody else has already done. But somebody else has already done the art bit. But magic dots. What you get is a lot of these little tiny bits of plastic, and they're dot, or the half dots. Perhaps there's a better way of describing it. So it's like a dome of flat on one side with a dome of plastic on the other, but the dome on the top has been faceted, so it reflects light and it sort of sparkles. So all I'm doing is picking them up and putting them onto this, which is already glued, and the numbers, it's a painting by numbers thing, but it sparkles. If you can see some camera's not great at picking up the sparkles because it's tending to reflect more, but if you can see in the bottom right hand corner of the image there, picture, the sparkles that you get. Now they really sparkle here. The camera's just sort of showing them as sort of, you know, a little like pixels going a bit funny. But here they're really sort of shooting sparks and sparkles, not sparks, but sparkles back. And when this is sort of laid on a desk or up on the wall and you walk past it, it just shimmers and sparkles. So I've done 2 others on stream, and I can't for the life of me recall what either of them were. But this is another one. The others were sort of little bits. This is the first time I've done one full size. You know, this is what, probably close to A3 in size, and it's everything's got to have a dot on it. The others had sort of bits that were printed, so you might have the face, but the eye was printed in high resolution and things. But this I believe is probably a clown, but the real ones, if you want to call it that, it's called diamond dots. The idea being that the dots sparkle like diamonds, and I have no idea what the quality of those is like, because they were really expensive. Something like this, bearing in mind I got 5, 6, 7, 8, something, a number, and I think I paid £20 for these clowns, and I'm sure I've got at least 5 of them, if not more than that, for that money. I must have done, because I think they were about an average of £2.50 a piece, whereas the diamond dots, one picture was £20 at least. So one would hope there's something more quality about it, but I can't afford to buy one to find out. But this is fun enough, and it produces a nice picture. And it's one of those nice things that I was about to say almost everybody can do. I guess you have to have a little bit of coordination to be able to put the dots on. Are you still having internet problems? Oh, that's a pity. Well, let's hope your internet problems resolve themselves. How is my sound, by the way? I guess, or I gather, my sound is potentially low compared to other broadcasters, so you have to turn your volume up. But how's the sound in relation to the music? I was intending for the music to be just slightly less than my sound, my voice, so it's always there in the background, but you can still hear me. Without too much trouble, that is. You're not struggling to hear me over the music. A little bit of a subjective thing, but somebody mentioned last night they could hardly hear me at all. So I've been playing a bit with the sound. So many dots to fill in. It gets a little... I purposely bought this as a kit. And one of the... Well, apart from the fact that I like the picture, because if I didn't like the picture I wouldn't have bought it. But I bought this because I thought some of the ones you can get, maybe the whole picture will be printed and all you do is fill in dots on it, say the eye there, because that's the feature. And then there's sort of, you know, some will maybe have sort of a bit of the face that you do the dots on, and the rest is printed. And I was kind of thinking I'd probably get through those in about 10 minutes, and I kind of wanted one with lots of dots on it, because, you know, it might take a couple of hours then. It is surprising how long this takes to do. I've been doing this probably, I think it's about 5 hours so far. Yeah, at least 5 hours. And having done the other two as well. which had less dots on them. It takes a awfully lot longer than you think when you look at these. But so there's I don't know. That's 5 hours. There's probably at least what 15-20 hours worth of work to do some of this. Whilst it may not be what what I'm doing may not be called art. It's a craft, and it's a reasonably sort of accessible one. It still takes an awfully lot of time to do. Should be nice at the end of it though. So what have you been up to, Laser? Not sure I'm trying to remember. It's really hard to keep track. I mean, I talk to a lot of people at work as well, so it's kind of hard sometimes to keep track of when I last talked to people. Don't know if you've been around since I got that button. That's up there. Don't know if you'd noticed it. I now have a subscribe button up there alongside the follow. Which was a sort of a nice change for the channel. All down to people like yourself who come along and take a look. One of the things I'm doing when I'm staring at this because I'm looking for these dots that are the right way up. Most of the ones I'm looking at there are upside down. They've got the dome down and the flat side up, and I need them the other way up in order to pick them up to put them onto the picture. So sometimes it's kind of I'm hunting through what I can see there, looking for one that's the right way up, to be able to pick it up with this tool and put it down. And to be honest, half the time it's quicker just to when you can't see any, it's just to tap like that. And not put them all over the top like this, which is what I've just done, but because then they take ages to pick up, because you can almost not pick them up by hand. And they do tend to go everywhere if you're not careful when you just do something like that. I tend to just pick up the tray and drop it half a centimetre, which is usually enough to make them jump without jumping out of the container and all over the place. I hate to actually, well no, I don't hate to think, don't we have some strange idioms? I was about to say, I hate to think how many dots there are on this page. I don't hate to think it at all. It'd be interesting to know, but I'm not going to go count them. The English language at times is really strange with these phrases that we come out with like that. Okay, so you're going to decide not to stick. Don't quite know what holds the dots to the bottom of this. there's a bit of wax in the bottom, but I'm not actually sure that's I think, you know, when you first put it in, it does cause the dots to stick to it, but after a while I think it's just purely static electricity that's causing them to stick. Because you must sort of gradually sort of wear the sticky off the wax and push it in far enough that it doesn't actually even make contact with the dots anymore. And of course, putting these down is when you start doing sort of games like, I'm going to fill that bit in, or I'm going to make a square, or I'll do around the outline and fill it in. Just so you follow some sort of, you know, system or something like that to Okay, Laser. Have a great night. Sorry you're having problems with your internet. Hopefully it will resolve itself, and we'll see you around again. Have a good night. Right, well, internet problems. I'm lucky, I guess. Right, well, I suppose you'd all know about it if I was having internet problems, because I'd be dropping. I'm not, am I? No, I'm not. It's all green. You know, Murphy has the habit of walking in the room at that point, and you know, and frames start being dropped and all sorts. Tempting fate by saying I'm not having issues. Oh, I think on camera that looks really interesting, the way it builds up. And there is only black on here at the moment, so yeah, the jet black, the dark black areas are the only ones that have got dots on. Everything else at the moment is just the printed picture behind it. And we will get round to adding those colours in, but I'm doing black at the moment partly because the pack's open. I kind of maybe should do. I think what I'd probably do actually is when I finish this pack of black off, just picking up a dot there that had gone on its own accord. When I finish this pack of black off, I'll probably use, move to one of the other colours to sort of fill in some space around here, because it's kind of a little bit awkward leaning over. You know, I can't put my fingers down because this is all sticky, and do that too many times, and I wear the sticky off, of course, and then the dots don't stick. That is when I'm not shooting them all over the desk. But they're great big bulging packs of dots. I'm just picking up a couple that's there. I just know that if I drop that any more than that, these things will just shoot all over the place and they'll be all over the desk. I've even got a white one in there from somewhere. I do not know where that one's come from. So when I pick one up, I'm looking at the bottom, because sometimes you get two dots stuck together, bottom to bottom, and then they won't actually stick down on or won't stick securely on the picture. And very occasionally they're upside down, you don't see it. Now they're not permanent. Well, they're not permanently stuck as such. You can sort of move them around a little bit and lift them off, but they are surprisingly sticky. Is this background when you stick the dots on? In fact, you almost get into a competition with yourself like this in how quickly can I pick up a dot and put it down correctly in the place. Of course, you can't go too silly with that, because what happens is you don't put it down correctly in the place, and then you end up having to sort of try and slide it, because lifting it off isn't easy. You need something fairly sharp, like a knife. I use a small scalpel, for example, to lift things off if I need to do so, just so that I can get underneath it and flip it up. But it has to be something reasonably sharp to do that. I've kind of mentioned it before, but it kind of feels a bit like being a human pick and place machine. Things that make electronics and printed circuit boards kind of work the same way as this. They go along, go to a component, pick it up, come along, he says, having dropped that one, which is something that they do look out for. Come along to the right place and just drop it down and place it, and then carry on to the next one. Now there's an interesting thought. Having a printed circuit board that which was a picture, if you like, picking your components based on not based on what they are, but on their colour. So you go and buy something that's black, and then get design a printed circuit board so that you can get a pick and place machine to come along and drop the component onto place. It then gets soldered, but drop it into place and build a picture. There's a real weird thought for you there. Of course, it would be expensive on a board like this to do, but it's one of those things that you could imagine a world famous artist doing. It's having a pick and place machine in an art gallery that was just using components just to create a picture. It'd probably be something that would be bought by the Tate Gallery. With their reputation for buying things like unmade beds and piles of bricks. And I must admit, I probably have more of a traditional eye for art. I kind of don't understand the art of a pile of bricks or the art of an unmade bed, especially since the pile of bricks was quite possibly created by dropping it from the back of a lorry. Yeah, I can understand that sometimes you get something like that can have an aesthetic to it, but a pile of bricks, not my kind of art. Good luck to those that where it is, I guess. Oh, it's only 5 to 8. I was convinced it was an hour later than that. So I'm not going to be stopping as soon as I was expecting to a minute ago. Nope, that one's upside down. Sometimes you just can't pick them up out of this tray. They just don't want to. It's almost as the tray's got little grooves in it. I don't really know why it's got little grooves in it. Possibly, I guess, to sort of encourage them to lay in lines to make them easier to pick up. But the dots are sometimes just large enough that they sort of fit between the raised lines exactly enough to be sort of very slightly jammed in. Let's put a bit more wax in this. I don't know if it's... If it's that's making it more awkward to pick things up tonight. Picking up 3 at once doesn't help. I'm not sure putting that new wax on helped either, because it's kind of things are kind of sticking anywhere. So instead of them being central to the end of the tool, they're just sort of stuck on the side of it. So if you've not seen this channel before, we're actually I think we're broadcasting tonight under the variety, one of the variety groups, actually under 3 of the variety groups, because that's certainly something you could say about this channel is I'm definitely a variety broadcaster. I don't think I was about to say I don't think I've done the same subject twice in any art form, and I've done something like about 7 different art forms now on stream. At the end of last night's stream, I kind of whipped through them all and surprised myself that I actually managed to remember them. There was chainmail, there was beading, there was kumahimo, braid weaving. There was carving, there was scraperboard, pyrography, punchcraft, magic dots. We've made a quadcopter. We started making a 3D printer. We've done glass engraving and large hug rugs. Started doing some of that as well. I've also done some soldering on stream even. That's about 10 things. I was rather surprised. So you get some gamers that describe themselves as variety streamers because they play different games. I do different art. Not only do I do different art, I do different subjects in that art as well. So you certainly get to see a lot of things here. And if there is ever anything that kind of fancies that you fancy doing, or that you feel like you'd like to try, then certainly if it's something that I do, here is a good place to find out about it, because I do tend to explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So I'm not going to go telling you this is the way to do it or this is the only way to do it. I will tell you this is the way I do it, and I'll tell you why, and you're welcome to ask questions as well. So if you do see anything that interests you enough to feel like you might want to have a go, then fantastic. But also, feel free to ask questions about it, even if it's to help you just decide whether it is something that you'd like to do. As an example, I have been fascinated by glass blowing since a really early age, and I am hoping later this year to actually just do a one-day course on glass blowing, just to see if I like it enough to spend a lot of saved money and buy an oxypropane torch and an extractor kit and a kiln in order to do some glass work. If I don't like it, I get to spend the money on something else. If I do like it, then I'm suddenly broke again. But it's that's one of the reasons why I'm doing that. Well, apart from the fact I'm doing the one-day course, because it's kind of a sensible thing to do. And I realised that a long time ago, because going out and buying that sort of kit, the sort of kit that would be needed to even just try it, is kind of expensive. So I get to try it using somebody else's kit. So to the best of my knowledge, there isn't any glass blowers around where I live here, in order to sort of ask them to use their kit. But I sort of inspired to do it because of watching a streamer here on Twitch, PokeRanger69, who I enjoyed and still do if he ever broadcasts again, glass blowing, because he has a tendency to explain what he's doing when he's doing it without saying you must do it this way, this is the only way, because there's always more than one way to do anything. There's two ways to break glass. You can heat it suddenly, you can throw it in the air, you can throw it on the floor, you can hit it with you know what I mean. So it's because of him explaining things that got me to look at it, which got me to realise that whilst it was expensive, it was affordable. Affordable with a lot of saving, but affordable. But as I say, you don't want to commit to that sort of spending without at least having an idea that you are going to like what you're doing. And hence, investing a small amount of money in doing a one-day experience, I guess, is probably best described. It is a course, but I'm treating it more of an experience. One-on-one course, so again, it's not cheap, but you do get to try lots of whatever you want, really, which you might not if you were in a bigger course, because then the course will be designed to sort of suit the majority. And I really just want to play about with glass, see if I feel okay playing about with glass, because I would have to learn through doing. So I've got to be reasonably comfortable with handling the glass before I do that, and therefore that's the kind of one of the reasons for the one-on-one. After as it is, one of the ways to tell which way up these are is when they're in this tray. If they're shiny, they're upside down. if they're not shiny, they're probably the side I want to pick them up on. And yet when you put them down on here, the not shiny side suddenly becomes really shiny and sparkly. It's magic. So, as I mentioned at the start of this stream, I'm kind of trying to finish off a few projects so that they're not half finished projects aren't lying around on the desk. So I'm not particularly starting anything new like wood carving at the moment, or the engraving. The engraving, I'm not sure whether I'm going to do engraving on stream anymore, just because of the noise. I kind of am not very tolerant of noise, so with the glass engraving I need to use an extractor fan which sits in front of me, because otherwise if I wasn't streaming I'd be using a face mask, because the engraving creates glass dust which is in the air then, and hence the face mask, so I don't breathe it. But when I'm streaming I can't easily talk. I suppose I could sort of start to think about putting a microphone inside the mask, but that probably wouldn't sound really well. Might end up having to think about that, and at least I get to look silly on stream then with a half mask on. It's kind of like a gas mask, but at least it's safe from breathing glass dust. But in absence of putting in a mask on, I have to have the extractor, and it's not quiet. It's one of those noises. It's fan noises, and it's not really loud, but it's always there. And after a while, it just gets to you, kind of, and it's. Because I'm doing, it's not, because I'm doing the engraving for fun on stream, then it's kind of like, it's not as much fun. When I'm doing sort of engraving commercially, well, it's kind of, I'll ignore it if I'm doing it that way. Of course, as I say, I wear the dust mask, or the mask which filters out the glass dust. Because I don't actually use a dust mask. I don't use the sort of mask that most people would buy in things like a home store or a DIY store. The sort of the little paper things. They're not fantastically effective, and especially with fine particles flying around in the air, because they don't seal very well. If you wear glasses, for example, you can tell, because you find when you've got one on, glasses steam up because the air comes up the side of your nose, and it's always more moisture in it, so it messes up your glasses. And if air is coming out that way, it goes in that way as well. So I use actually a proper full-fitting a chemical vapor mask, so it will actually filter out some chemicals. So, for example, did some clear coating a while ago, which is sort of an organic solvent, spray paint, but it's an organic solvent, and it stinks. Tiny quantities, half pleasant smell, sort of pear type smell, but when you get lots of it, it's not very pleasant. You don't want to be breathing it full stop, never mind the particles of the clear coat. But with a mask on, Can't smell it at all. There's just no smell. That's because they're designed to absorb those sorts of things as well, the organic chemicals. So definitely a good thing to wear, but not necessarily very comfortable. It would end up having to be a silent stream, I think. Just music playing in the background, but me wearing a mask doing engraving, so I kind of would be ignoring chat as well. Well, I might think about doing that if I do it in the future, because I've got one side of a coffee jar spare, and I've got another coffee jar over there that I can engrave. But one of the things I've got is some terracotta Greek style vases, which Lady Zara would like painting. So those are airbrush things, and I've got 5 of those to do as a project. So they're sat to one side. So that's another one finished. Project which I need to start in that particular case, but that's there in the background. So hence I'm a little bit not really that keen on starting brand new things. Although I think if I were to start something brand new, I'd probably look at some high-speed carving. Again, that's one where I really should use a mask or the extractor fan, so I'm not sure. I'm fairly sure that there's probably people around. Pussycat that could do this with 2 hands. Yeah, what? A tool in each hand to sort of be going, bang, 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 bang like this. I can't. Well, I'm not going to try. Whether I can or not, I don't know. That sort of thing might be a little bit easier if you could guarantee that these dots were all the right way up to pick up, but you can't. Although I have sort of, whilst I've not been streaming and whilst I've been doing things like this whilst I've not been streaming, I have sort of amused myself with trying to think of ways in which you could sort of persuade these things to always present themselves the right way up and in a nice line so that you could just easily pick them up. And something like the tray at an angle with maybe a little tiny vibration motor, for example, might do something like that, because I'm sure they're more stable on their flat bottoms than they are on their domed tops. There's actually something that also, whilst I was doing, I was thinking it's very similar to sort of being able to do something similar with perlers. You dump a load of perlers into a tray or something and have them come out the bottom like a pen, where there's just one percentage and you just put it down and and just keep going, rather than sort of having to pick them up one at a time and be like this and put them into the grid. Now, if the grid was very slightly sticky, you could do something like this, is where it's they come out the bottom in like a friction, it's like friction fit, so they're coming down like a tube, stop at the bottom because of the friction's holding them there. And then if you put them down onto something sticky, then they stick and you could just lift the pen off and the next one would drop into place. It would make it a heck of a lot faster for some people to do do perlers that way, because you know, if you had one, even if it was one, even if you only had one, but you know, you could sort of go one there, and sort of like this, and then change your colour and do the next ones, or have, you know, one for each colour that you're using. I've got a 3D printer set just over there. Must remember this camera's offset. It usually sits looking straight down, and I can do that, but with it offset I've got to do that. Maybe that'll be something I'll have a play about with, see if I can do something like that with perlers. Because over there somewhere is a kit, a perler kit. Photographic perler kit, so it's got a range of photographic colours in it, so you can do images. The thing is, I've got to find an image I feel like doing in perler in order to do that. So perlers is another thing I've got. That's actually something I saw for the first time ever. Well, no, I think I've sort of seen them before in sort of craft shops, but never really sort of had an interest, because the sort of things that I've seen with them done were sort of like little stars, you know, the sort of shapes that might interest sort of a preschool child. That's the only thing I've sort of seen done with them. Whereas when I've been watching on Twitch, you've had, you know, seen people doing fairly large things and some reasonable sort of renditions of all sorts of things, which sort of inspired me to get a kit and try it. Now I can't actually remember, but it was one of the streamers that helped me work out, who was doing perlers, that helped me work out what I might want to do, you know, buying bits from and where to get them from. Kind of an illustration of, if something interests you, ask the streamer about it, and you may find more information. Most of the streamers do tend to be somewhat friendly, forthcoming with information. They're not sort of doing, oh, it's a trade secret type of thing. I'm doing it, I don't want any competition, therefore I'm not going to tell you. I think I'm going to finish these 3 columns and possibly call it for the evening. A little bit of an ache in my shoulder from doing this, and something I learnt a while ago is no point in forcing things to continue just for the sake of it. Because often that just means in the end you spend more time not doing it because you didn't take a break at an appropriate time. So I set a goal and we will finish when we hit that goal. Now that may well be possibly in 10 minutes, or it could be in 40 minutes. I'm not actually sure. This stuff really does sometimes take a lot longer than you're expecting. I mean, I suppose it's not surprising if you think, I mean, I'm not going particularly slow here, but it's probably taking me 1 or 2 seconds to pick up one of these and put it down, so that's only 30 per minute. That's only just over, you know, it's only close to 2,000 an hour, which is, in the scheme of this, you know, 2,000 isn't that big an area. I mean, 1,000 is what, 100 by 10. Yeah, 10 columns, 100 high. And 100 doesn't sound that many. Actually, we've got about halfway up since I set the goal, so we're not going. We're not hanging about though. Yeah. Sounds like it's raining here in the UK, up in Yorkshire. Can hear it on the roof. Oh, only 12 left. That reminds me, I've got the gutters to clean out. Three. 2. And 1. Yeah, kind of quit while you're ahead, I think. So there's a fair bit done though tonight. Rather surprising, because we've only sort of a little bit down here on the nose, so there's all this has been done in what, an hour and a half, so not bad going. So we'll cover that over to protect the glue, stop it getting cat hairs and dust on, and I think we will leave that for tonight. So I'm going to just mention a few things. Some of the other websites that you've been seeing down at the bottom there. Twitter, twitter.com/Sarraganart. So tweets go out when I go live. If I can't go live, I generally tweet why, or that I'm not able to do so, so you don't have to come around looking. And occasionally the odd thing about new art and forms that I'm going to try or thinking about for the stream. My own website is arrogantart.com there if you'd like to know a little bit more about some of the crafts that you've seen. There's some information on there, hopefully I'll get more on there, but about each of the crafts and about some of the pieces sometimes and why they were done and what they mean to me, and something else about, you know, a few things about them. There's also a small shop there, though it's not actually got much in it. I think it's only got about 2 or 3 things in it at the moment. I keep meaning to put more in, but to it, you need lots of them in this sort of game, and I don't have as many as I'd like. There is also Facebook. Check out Facebook, like the page. You know, there's more photographs of things like the studio and the view from the studio, and bits and pieces, crafts and things like that again, which you won't necessarily really see on the other sites, but so time to time there's things on there. There is also, of course, YouTube, all the old archive. It's over 700 hours. 3/4 of a terabyte of video is gradually being uploaded onto YouTube. So if you want to see any of the really old broadcasts now from, it's still back in 2015 that I'm uploading, then check that out. Follow the page, you'll get the new ones, the newer ones as they go up. Gradually I'll get up to towards date, and you'll be able to sort of see some of the more recent broadcasts. I'll be putting into things like playlists and things as well, so you can see them sort of sequentially, because sometimes I hopped about from craft to craft on a daily basis. And I'm looking because I can't always remember all of them. Actually, I've just joined Instagram as well, so you might look out for me on there as Arrogant Art as well. Etsy, the shop. So if you are interested in jewellery items, so the gold stuff like in the picture here, like that, it's a really nice bracelet. Is that, or cuff is that one really, because it's quite thick. All made, they were all made on stream, so they will eventually be available on YouTube to watch. But the jewellery, so things like this chainmail style jewellery, made out of different metals. This is anodized aluminium, there's bright aluminium, there's niobium, there's titanium, there's stainless steel. All made, not various kinds of things there, so take a look if that's of interest to you. No sterling silver, no gold. Just because they are too expensive in one-off pieces to be able to put onto Etsy, because they need hallmarking. It's the hallmarking which is more expensive than the pieces are. And that's about it, apart from to say there's 2 buttons at the top of there. I'd consider pushing either of them, or I'd ask you to consider pushing either of them. Of course, there's the follow if you want notification from Twitch, and there's the subscribe. Twitch have got a promotion at the moment, half off, so you only pay half the normal subscription, but I get all of it just for this month. But so you might like to consider that. Of course, it's not mandatory by any means. And the proceeds of which all go towards supporting the channel, buying kits, tools, wood, materials, that sort of thing. New microphones, perhaps a lavalier microphone. Cameras, could do with an extra camera, for example, which I will get round to trying to build at some point, because I should be able to do one of those using a Raspberry Pi. We shall see. So don't spend money on purpose. Thank you for watching. Hope you'll come back tomorrow. Should be a stream tomorrow night. Look out for me around between 1900 and 2000 hours British Summer Time. That's about 1900 hours GMT UTC. Those are both the same. It varies a little bit just depending on how busy I've been at work when I get home, in order to be able to have tea and then start the stream. But somewhere around that sort of time. A tweet will usually go out immediately before the channel, if not at a little bit earlier, if I can manage to give some advance notice. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you on the next stream. Bye for now.